Hello, now we're working on finding an equation of a line, and we're going to use the slope-intercept form, which means that we have an equation where x and y are going to be changing, but the things that will stay the same are m and b once we know them. And slope is always using the symbol m, and b is always the symbol for the y-intercept, which is an actual coordinate point of when x is 0. Okay, so we want to find an equation y equals mx plus b when we have a slope in the y-intercept. So that's nice. I gave you the two pieces to the puzzle. So all we have to do is put them in. Y equals 2x, and then this y-intercept is a negative 1/3. Wow, those are great. Let's see what that looks like in Desmos. So in Desmos, I am going to write my equation y equals 2x minus 1/3. And it's definitely a positive increasing graph. So you can see right there where I put my mouse on where it's crossing the y-axis, that is my y-intercept in decimal form. And you can see if I go over from 0, so let's pick a point that falls on a nice coordinate. I don't think there are any because of the way it is. It's hard to find one that fits nice and easy. Perfect. Because our slope, or our y-intercept is at 1/3. It's going to take a while for it to get to one that's a perfect. Well, this is not a good one for that. Let's go to our next equation. So let's find an equation of a line. This time we only know that we have 2 points. So to find the equation of a line, y equals mx plus b, we know that we need the slope and the y-intercept. And I did not give you the slope and I did not give you the y-intercept. So we're going to have to find both of those. So the first thing is, let's find the slope, because we learned earlier in algebra lessons that if we know all of the pieces in an equation but one, we can always solve for that one piece. But at this point, we don't know any. So let's find the slope. So the slope by definition is the change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to do 1 minus a negative 2 over 3 minus a negative 1. So that becomes 1 plus 2 over 3 plus 1 is 3 over 4. So that's my slope. So far, I'm just going to kind of keep track of what my equation looks like as we find the different pieces. So we have y equals 3/4 x plus, we're missing the y-intercept. Okay, so I know y equals 3/4 x plus b. Well, because I'm creating a line with these 2 points, both of these points should fall on my line. So I'm going to use one of the points, it doesn't matter which one, to put in for x and y, and then we will know the equation for all 3 of the 4 parts, and we can solve for b. So I'm going to put in my 3 and 1. So y is 1 equals 3/4 times x is 3 plus b. So now I should be able to solve for b. So 1 equals 9/4 plus b. And because I want to solve for b, I have to subtract 9/4 from both sides. So I get b over on the right And then 1 plus 9/4 is 4/4 plus a negative 9/4 is a negative 5/4. And you can do all that in Desmos. So let's go to Desmos for a minute so that you're rest assured. So in Desmos, I want to do 1 plus parentheses a negative 9/4 because I'm not sure what it is. And that comes out to be a negative 1.25. And I said a negative 5/4. And I just validated that that fraction of a negative 5/4 is the same as a negative 1.25. So the great thing is you can really use Desmos as your best friend, as a calculator and as a way for you to check some things that you're doing by hand. Okay, so back to the paper. So my y-intercept is a negative 5/4. So that is my equation of the line. So finding an equation of a line, you need two things, the slope and the y-intercept. Sometimes you're given one or both. Sometimes you're given neither and you're just given 2 points. If you're given 2 points, you can find the slope by hand and then you can solve for the y-intercept. I'm going to go back and show you how to put in the 2 points like we've talked about before when we did slope, and how we can just put in those 2 points and voila, find the equation of the line. So to do that, you have to have a table. And in my table, I'm going to put my 2 points, -1, -2, and 3 and 1. Then I'm going to go down here to my next row and I'm going to type y1. I have to use whatever my table came up with. So my table has x1, y1, so I have to use x1, y1. So y1 tilde, m for slope, x1, because that's where it's going to use the data in x1, plus b, and voila, it gave me my slope m right down here under parameters, and b a negative 1.25. And I'm just going to validate here that my slope is 3 divided by 4, and that is 0.75, because remember, Desmos always gives the parameters, your slope and your y-intercept in a decimal form, and then validating that a negative 5/4 is a negative 1.25. So we just checked what we did by hand. Okay. So next up, I want to discuss horizontal lines. So horizontal lines are lines that are just flat. They go left and right. And equation wise, we say that they're y equal to b, because it's basically just equal to wherever your y-intercept is. So if I said, draw me a line at y equals 2, that's where it is. And I can change with this slider here, I can change whatever I want that line to be, but notice that it's still just like walking across a room. It's very flat. There's no slope to it at all. That's a horizontal line. I'd love for you to play around with that a little bit. Then we can do, I'm going to turn that off. If I want to turn off that graph, notice where it's in red over here in the color, I can click on that and just say, I want you to stay there, but I don't want you to show up on the graph. So let's do a vertical line. Whoops. I have to tell it that I want to write words or it thinks I'm doing an equation. I keep forgetting that. Note. So this is a vertical line. And then I'm this time a vertical line up here. I'm going to tell you a vertical line doesn't have a y equals, it has an x equals. So it's x equal to a, and you'll see why. So I'm just going to do x equal to 3. And there it is. And now I can do a slider with that. So remember when we did our slope in our slope lesson, and this was considered an undefined slope, and it's like being in an elevator where you're just going up and down, up and down. So I'm going to change with my slider over here, my x, and notice that my different vertical lines just move left to right. but they don't have any slope at all. It's just straight up and down. Pretty cool. So those are vertical lines and horizontal lines. Catch me back for the next lesson.